So the topic today, I think it's quite relevant for the whole mobility ecosystem, right? What I truly believe is that if you look at the global and the Indian automotive universe, it's really at a consequential inflection point where you're seeing the physical and the digital landscape sort of almost converge together and reshaping how we are thinking about mobility. If we really think about it, in the role of India, how India is shaping the global dynamics from a volume and a premiumization play, which was talked about a few years back, and a market which was more adopting the global trends, to now today we are shaping the global trends, right? So that's one big shift as an Indian ecosystem that's happened. And three themes, if I have to put, which is also the core for our panel discussion today, are sort of again like converging. The one theme that is around electrification, where India is already at the forefront in adoption of EVs, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, already seeing a lot of high penetration. It's gradually moving into other vehicle segments and supported by not just government policies, but also innovation around charging infrastructure that's coming in, right? The second is around the whole software-defined vehicles, where it's not just the differentiation under the hood, but also in terms of what's really is in the stack, the software stack now. And the third is around the AI, the integration of AI into the real world systems and how we are making every kilometer more safer to drive. So without any more delay, what I'll do is maybe I'll just hand over the mic to each of our panelists, and maybe they can share quickly one quick point in terms of first what they think have been that one development that has sort of surprised them in the last 12, 18 months, which they think is very promising. Maybe like a 60-second view on that, and then we get into our themes for the day.
Thank you, Ankur. I will not say development, but more like an outcome and reality. In the context of world outside of India, autonomous taxis and cars now a reality. From idea introduction long back, lot of questions about the feasibility of the idea, safety, ethics, what all. But now you see almost majority of the trips, places like San Francisco, are happening on autonomous taxis. When it will happen in India, I think that something to think about. But in the larger context of India, again, not so cool thing, no futuristic. But we have been talking about EV penetration adoption. Now this March, the numbers were overwhelming. The entire industry has shown that EV is the future. If you look at the passenger car market, the EV are almost 2x versus ICE. So no one is questioning whether EV is the future or not. I think it will now happen. So I'm pleased with that outcome. And yes, the work has been happening from almost a decade.
From my perspective, again, whether surprise or not, but how things are evolving is AI has been there for quite some time. In fact, few years back, AI was primarily in the cloud. But AI has been moving to the edge as well, along with cloud, and that has started playing more and more important role in mobility. With the recent developments called Gen AI and LLMs, I'm sure everyone has heard of those. There's a lot more awareness now, and the possibilities on how to make roads safer, how to make transportation more intelligent, not only in the end user situations, but also on the commercial. So there's a lot of awareness, and correspondingly there's a lot of adoption thanks to AI evolution. So that's something that I think we are seeing the very clear trends in.
First of all, thank you, Ankur and Entrepreneur, to have me here. It's a pleasure. So what is really surprising, or what has shifted? I mean, if I look at the macro shifts, if you see, especially in the automotive dominance, the dominance is shifting from the global west to the global east, while China is leading the way in the entire supply chain of electromobility. And if I specifically talk about India, the traditional, homegrown, homebred automakers are, making waves in electromobility. As in Tata was leading the way and Mahindra has joined hands now. Others are kind of there but lagging behind, I would say. So this is a fantastic thing to see. At the same time, what I see is in the, let's say, component ecosystem, many tier one suppliers who were making different kinds of parts like belts or gears, some mechanical things and so on, they've all started developing local product development capabilities, and this is a fantastic thing that has to happen. I mean, the amount of noise that traditional IT companies were making has kind of dulled down, while all the product development and manufacturing oriented and research, development, innovation kind of companies are cropping up. And this is a great thing for India's future. And India has already started contributing not only for India, but for the globe.
Sure. Thanks all of you. I think this sort of sets the context for the discussion that we're going to get into, and it'll be very interesting to hear all three of your insights, because I think all three of you in your own ways are actually building and driving this transformation and not just observing it. So it'll be very interesting. So why don't we first get into the first theme that's more around the software development vehicles, SDVs. That's like the buzzword. But underneath that, there's a lot of things that's going in terms of how we are thinking about vehicles. And it's also very closely linked to how we are embedding the AI and technology into this to make our vehicles more safer, more efficient. So Vinay, actually, the first question maybe for you is that, see, often physical AI and autonomy gets talked in the same breath. But at Netradyne, as we understand, you have built in a very unique way of looking at AI, right? You've done some tremendous work in terms of safety and making risk prediction and real-time monitoring. But if I have to ask you, what is it that would it take to now take this and start deploying it at larger scale and moving beyond across vehicle segments? So what are some of those 2-3 things that really need to click for that to happen now?
Yeah, thank you, Ankur. So, just to give a little bit of a context, at Netradyne, we have been there for about 10 years. And as I said, AI has become a more hot keyword in recent years, but we have been embedding AI, especially even the more advanced one, Vision AI, at the edge for about 10 years. We have our deployment base all across the world, at least 15 plus countries, but and typically end user vehicles. But what I wanted to highlight is, in fact, the adoption and openness is a lot more when it comes to commercial vehicles, because the benefits can be seen immediately. And in fact, if you are a fleet operator of any size, right, whether you have 10 vehicles, 10,000 vehicles, doesn't matter. You always have had lack of visibility into the driving behavior or efficiency losses and so on until it was late. So you can report an incident post fact, but there was not much that you could do to prevent things from happening. So this kind of so compared to that, if you're an end user, then you are driving your vehicle and then you know how you're driving, so there's not so much of so there is limited use case for you in the sense that ADAS should be there, etc. Right? All of that has to be processed. All of that requires processing at the edge. So we already have mastered this art as a individual company, but also as an industry, of how to push AI at the edge at scale. Now, you can take the same similar infrastructure, and because it's known that it can scale, there are many other possibilities that are there. For example, one of the adjacent areas we'll talk about fleets here, commercial fleets here for a moment. Everyone is driving vehicles, commercial vehicles, for potentially transportation of something. It could be goods or people or whatever. What if not only in the vehicle, but also once the driver or any person gets out of the vehicle, could they also have some additional edge devices which are processing things as they move around, and they provide them active guidance. So that's one of the areas that we are seeing. One of the adjacent areas that we are seeing in the area of physical AI that's evolving. All of us probably have heard of smart glasses, of course. So there are several players there who are essentially building interesting solutions there. But the key thing is the technology has matured now, and possibilities, especially with but the recent developments have expanded significantly, both in terms of fleets, road safety, or adjacent use cases, operations efficiencies. All of those are becoming more and more possible.
Sure. Thanks, Vinay. That's very interesting. And in fact, Amit, that sort of will be interesting to hear your thoughts on how you are looking at AI or technology in your fleet, right? You have a large fleet, primarily geared for gig workers. Now there, one thing is the key problem you must be facing is around the compliance, right? Because it's a workforce which is hard to train, monitor. And I do know you have made a lot of investments in terms of how you've thought about the compliance. But other than that, will be interesting to know about how you've gone about that. And second is also, are you seeing other applications to what Vinay spoke and otherwise in terms of where you are looking at leveraging technology to make fleet more efficient, the usage more well governed, etc.
Sure. So I'll talk about the usage of technology in the context of business, the core part, and then talk about the safety which you have asked. So in our business, just like an airline business, the uptime of the fleet is the most important thing. So for us, keeping the vehicle up and running, even before it is breaking, so if you know that this product or this component has to be changed before the life is actually going to be over, that is a very, very big thing in our business model. And we have been able to successfully do that by putting the sensor in the bike. We know from the data in the past that which component has gone through what type of life. That too by city. On a standard four-wheeler, two-wheeler, the OEM will tell that after 10,000 kilometers you change this, after 20,000 you change it. But in our case, a shock absorber, let's say in Bangalore, will have a lower life than a same shock absorber in Delhi. The paint quality will be very different in Bangalore versus, let's say, Mumbai. So we are able to know this data far more precisely, and that helps us to reduce our cost of maintenance and also increase uptime at the same time. And this is something which has been a core IP for us. We also know that which component is failing or doing more. So we're able to go back to the OEM, improve the quality, durability. So far, Yulu has done almost 39 to 40 fundamental changes in the bike platform, only to go increase our life of the vehicle and predictability. And this translates to our margins, and that's where we have been, by the way, a bit of profitable company for almost last 1 year. And this would not have happened without technology. The second thing is the asset safety itself, where our bikes are tracked. We know if someone is trying to misbehave with that, someone is trying to steal with them. So all of that actually gets captured and action upon in real time. Last but not the least, the safety of the rider and the people around that. We have filed a patent. Actually, we have got a patent also for anyone who is going in a wrong way. So you know that delivery people, in the name of trying to give you a product very quickly or trying to earn more money, they sometimes try to take shortcuts, and sometimes the shortcut is also going in a one way. So we have now deployed technology in our system, in our bike, that if they try to go in a one way, the bike will actually stop. So this is a very, very big and very innovative thing, which no other vehicle in the industry can do. So that's how we are using technology in our case.
Great, thanks, Amit. So my takeaway is that safety is obviously one of the first application, but what you're saying is predictive maintenance and compliance is a big other area where you can not just save cost, but just make it a far more efficient fleet, right? Thanks. So we've spoken quite a bit around the inside the vehicle or on the vehicle in terms of the use of technology. But I also would like MK to get your thoughts in terms of how you're thinking of technology from an infrastructure point, right? We are looking at Sun Mobility to build an intelligent infrastructure platform. So where do you really see practical avenues or applications in terms of deploying technology and make the whole infrastructure far more efficient?
Sure. Fundamentally, we are a excuse me, technology-driven company. So unlike many other, let's say, contemporaries who are in the battery swapping space, uh, they started with the pop and mom model, Kirana store model, and so on. But the vision of Chetan Maini, who doesn't know Chetan Maini, one of the pioneers in electromobility in India, he's a technocrat, he started the company itself with the mindset of technology. So, though it is much more difficult to operate a product with that mindset because you have many things to solve before you actually hit the market, but once you hit the market, your ability to scale is phenomenal. So, whether it is battery, whether it is our charging and swapping station, everything is based on very high tech solutions. For instance, one of the important thing in the battery is to be able to have a digital twin, as in every cell has its own capacity, its own life. What is its SOC level? What is its SOH level? Will it be able to meet the battery warranty for the life cycle of the product? These are all extremely critical elements in a very cost sensitive segment of the market, right? So we deploy AI for doing this. We have several algorithms also which is monitoring, because not one technology you can always completely depend on. And can you depend on AI 100% for decision making today on a mission critical item? That is yet to be seen, right? I mean, it can do a lot of fantastic jobs. It is finally a tool, it's a resource, right? Has it really reached the level of maturity that you can completely depend on it? Okay, there are different answers to this question in different segments. Now, coming to station itself, batteries or cells are very sensitive to temperature. So you need to really manage, while you're charging, the battery is very, very fast. You need to really manage how the temperature is being handled as well. So we have a complete system ecosystem in our station in order to take care of. This is just one example. There are several other examples and technologies that are going into it. Here also we have several codes which the AI agents monitor and give very valuable insights and inferences on an ongoing basis.
Thanks, MK. That is really interesting and it'll be good to understand as you go along in terms of how you deploy this at scale. Vinay, maybe just before we move to the next theme, we spoke about quite a few areas. Any other area you think that could emerge, say, in the next 24 months where probably technology and AI could play a big role?
So I think some of the things that I was going to talk about, Amit already spoke about, which is you. I'm assuming you're talking about specifically in the context of mobility, right? So there are many problems which are unsolved and can be solved with technology. And again, I want to emphasize that there is OEM aspect where you build the technology along with the vehicle, but then there is another aspect of aftermarket, which is in fact much larger and very easy to essentially start utilizing the benefit of technology. We talked about safety, where especially vision, right? So using vision, you don't necessarily need to buy the new vehicle to get benefit of technology in the aftermarket. You have a vehicle, you take a device, for example, Netradyne, you can put it into the vehicles on the dashboard. It starts processing things, seeing things just like we humans would see, starts giving feedback to the drivers as, for example, if I was sitting next to you and I was driving, you can observe how I am driving. If I'm looking at my phone, or I'm feeling drowsy, or if I'm driving too fast and following another vehicle, jumping through traffic lights and so on, all of these behaviors you as human can process because you have eyes and your brain. Same possibilities exist today. But the other parts are similar to, for example, again, vehicle maintenance or route optimization. All of these, in fact, there's so much that you can do. Just as an example, a lot of vehicle maintenance today is about some mechanic some technician looking at the vehicle parts and inspecting maybe, and in case of long route, long haul driving and stuff, drivers themselves double up as the technician, right? So in some sophisticated companies, fleets, in fact, they may inspect, take some pictures, and then you are relying on their judgment whether the vehicle is, every part is fine or not. But what if all of this data was already being collected? Fuel levels, to tire pressure, to engine health, battery health, all of those things. In addition to that, what if somebody could take a picture and then AI tells you whether everything is looking fine or not, right? Some of the sensors can tell you, some of the existing sensors in the system can tell you, but there are a lot of things that we still rely on human eyes and brain to process and tell. So all of these areas are, in fact, very ripe for benefiting from AI, and again, improving efficiencies, utilization, as Amit mentioned, safety. If you're driving safe, your drivers are safe, of course, your brand is protected, your drivers are better, happier, less lives lost on the roads, and overall system is more efficient. So all of these things are possible with AI. The one other thing I wanted to call out, in fact, is, so typically again, when you talk about safety and variety of things, there are a lot of things which are common. Some of those I talked about, like drowsiness, or looking at the phone, or following distance closely and stuff like that. But there are always situations, especially all of us here in Bangalore and India would relate to much more. There are always surprises happening on the road as well. So you can't really define ahead of time necessarily all of those situations. But what if we had a system where, depending on the your experience or in your area, you could define a situation in English language or any language for that matter, and let AI do the job and say, oh, if this happens, then let me know, right? So all of those things are essentially becoming possible, and I expect that part to be taking off a lot more going forward.
Thanks, Vinay. I personally would look forward to actually at some point these solutions coming, because I think it would not just make it safe, but also very delightful as a vehicle owner, the whole experience. I think, you see, all software-defined vehicles technology is extremely relevant, but underneath, you need to have a robust charging infrastructure. The whole ecosystem needs to be in place, which actually brings me to the next theme of the discussion. So Amit, first to you, in terms of, see, you have been at forefront in really as an operator, or as from a demand lens, if I have to look in terms of really adopting the whole swapping infrastructure or the swapping model at play at a large scale. So what would it really take for you now to say, if you want to really double down or invest further going ahead in swapping and not look, or would it be that you would also look at other models going ahead? So where is it that, how are you thinking about it strategically at Yulu?
Sure. So to put things in perspective, Yulu has 50,000 vehicles, electric vehicles running on swappable battery. We are country's largest EV fleet, and we are an early believer in swappable battery infrastructure. When we were pivoting from smart bicycles, which was our first product, which did not do well, we said, okay, the mobility solution requires an electric solution, and then back then there was no battery standard. Lot of debate around whether it should be fixed battery or swappable battery. So we took a bet it will be swappable battery. And in retrospect, those decisions were based on some fundamentals. We knew that if it is a fixed battery pack, then you will need a lot of space just to park the vehicle to charge, and forget the downtime, which comes with any charging. So if it is a fast charging, the cost of capex to put that is extremely high, which you cannot justify. And remind you that we are talking about two-wheelers, small vehicles. We're not talking about four-wheelers or buses and trucks. And then we looked at inspiration from other markets, especially China. In our business model, where someone else is using the product, swappable batteries seem to be the right thing to do. But the hard part was that there is no battery which does that job, although Sun Mobility was around, but they were also in a nascent stage, I would say. And second part, that you have to also put together a network. So almost building a new type of petrol pump or energy station where someone can go and do this job. So today Yulu has, with its sister company called Yuma, very similar to Sun Mobility business model, we have more than 350 stations across 4 cities where we operate. We are the largest, like Yuma is the largest two-wheeler battery network in the country at the moment. And we are able to put together this network at 1.5 kilometer density, which is pretty good. So this whole fear of that, oh my God, what will happen to my business, my range anxiety is now taken care of. So we build this literally from that fundamental lens that someone is using an EV needs to have almost zero downtime. So they go on a station, should be able to get this battery in less than a minute. So that is a customer promise what we are able to give. And this leads to a far bigger adoption of EVs. More than that, the people who are using that vehicle, they actually get the maximum amount of earning for themselves. So reliability, high uptime, that's all basically is all powered because of, all possible because of swappable battery. So for us, there's no looking back. I am again a big believer that for the commercial use case, where your driving distance are typically 100 kilometers in a day, you cannot do your job without any anxiety with a fixed battery pack. You ought to use a swappable battery. For personal use case, yes, the situation is different. So doesn't matter whether you're using swappable or not. But for commercial use case where the lot of miles are being clocked, and it actually has a huge implication on ROI for everyone involved in that. So we are bullish. We have been innovating quite a lot on infrastructure side, on battery chemistry side. And because we ourselves are a big consumer, we see all of our efforts actually can be amortized pretty quickly. So the risk is very low and the ROI is very, very high for us.
Thanks, Amit. MK, actually, that brings me to you in terms of, see, like Amit also spoke, and you have a practical solution in terms of how battery swapping has been deployed for two-wheelers, and it can be very naturally extended into three-wheelers. But if I have to say, what would it take to now, those 2-3 structural drivers or factors which can lead to this being deployed at even more larger scale, and maybe across different vehicle segments like commercial vehicles and buses, etc. So what is it that's currently need to be solved for?
Well, I would say that, it's not so much of a challenge or a problem to solve anymore. I mean, companies like Sun Mobility, who I represent, have already mastered the art of science and, on how to develop these products, right? At the end of the day, there is nothing like one size fits all, right? You can categorize it into different market segments. In our case, what we have done is for micro-mobility, what we mean is, scooters, three-wheeler, auto rickshaws, luggage, loaders, for instance, or even slightly light, four-wheeled light commercial vehicle and so on. We have standardized our battery pack and we use 1 all the way to 4 battery packs in a vehicle, which is sufficient. I mean, one very important thing, like also Amit said, to keep in mind is we are talking about gig workers. We are talking about last mile mobility. We are talking about delivery boys, right? I mean, so for them, uptime is everything. I mean, these days you see that these gig workers, like Amit also was saying, started going in the wrong direction, 10-minute delivery. So they are under extreme stress to make things happen. So can you even imagine that they can, keep the vehicle parked, even charge for half an hour? This is simply not possible. Uptime is everything, right? So they should be able to come into a station, swap the battery in seconds, and it's a matter of their livelihood. And if they compare the same thing as compared to ICE vehicles, the amount of money that they have to spend in terms of simply repairing the vehicle, maintenance cost, oil changes, filter changes, accounts to a very big deal. And the models, the business models are availing so good that when people buy vehicles, they don't even have to buy the batteries. They simply buy the vehicle and the maintenance cost comes down. It is so much more money in the pocket of these gig workers. So the model works fantastic from a technical standpoint, from an engineering standpoint. We have figured out how to deal with it. Even from a safety, security standpoint, we have figured out a way to deal with it. I mean, many times if something is not working very well in a particular vehicle, while we have integrated to about 70 to 100 different vehicle models and variants. Roughly about 150,000 swaps happen on a 1.5 million, more than 1.5 million swaps happen every month, for instance. So we take care that there is not a single incident that is out there. It is absolutely safe for the customer, no matter how they are using the vehicle. As a matter of fact, our joint venture partner with Indian Oil, CEO Anant, says that India is not a use case, it's an abuse case. People drop the battery and it still has to work. Right? So we've been able to, technology, I would say, is everything. It is very, very critical, and it's also a sensitive product. It is a product which can potentially catch fire if it is misused. So technology is absolutely essential. Continuous monitoring is absolutely essential. At the lowest possible cost, building the product for the highest amount of ruggedness and reliability is absolutely essential. So if you do not take care of it right from the beginning on all these aspects, scaling becomes impossible because things start giving way. I think some of the major EV OEMs in India face this problem with Chinese batteries, and their market share dropped like crazy. I would not like to name them, but I guess you all know who it is.
Got it. So it's reliability, but adaptability for the Indian conditions that becomes equally important. But I just want to touch upon this important point is around the sustainability, right? Because we are increasingly going to see a large volume of batteries which are going to be there. So who is going to take, how do you, in your view, who is it that should own the responsibility across the value chain when it comes to, say, battery, second life economics, the recyclability, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, typically, it always falls into whoever owns. It's all about the business model. Whoever owns the product also is responsible for making sure it is handled in a responsible manner, right? In many cases, for instance, in Sun Mobility's case, it's not like the customer owns the battery. It is our internal customer, Indofast, who owns the battery. So we take responsibility. The good news is the batteries are useful. They are like coconut trees. I mean, every part of it can be used over its lifetime, right? Once it, loses track of, let's say, vehicular life, maybe about 80% SOH or something like this, you can always put it into a second life, like energy storage system, which is also becoming very important. I mean, diesel generators are going to be replaced, right? Home inverters are going to be not anymore lead acid batteries in the future, right? At the same time, even after that life, there's a lot of rare earth material which is inside there. I mean, China and some of the countries are really controlling the global access to such rare earth material. So recycling that. Today, you can do up to 95% of recovery of the rare earth material, which are very valuable, from the batteries that have ended its life, right? So it'll be reborn into a new battery. So it is leading and supporting circular economy, right? So battery is not so much of a challenge. Probably there used to be a lot of debate in terms of fossil fuel versus battery. Who has a better carbon footprint? I mean, on one side, uh, you know, fossil fuel is burning and increasing the carbon footprint, while at the same time the energy generation is happening with coal or whatever other fossil fuels are. But this is fast changing. There are so many initiatives where solar farms are being created. Another simple example is the energy consumption through the day varies, right? I mean, your solar power is operating during the daytime, right? Most of you, whoever has, let's say, electric vehicle, at what time do you plug in? It's usually evening, it is night, the energy surge happens, so the Dow curve falls into place. So battery storage is absolutely essential. That's the reason why megawatt hour 20 feet container based battery systems are coming into picture. So this is not anymore something to be worried. Throughout the life cycle of the battery and its ingredients are valuable enough for making economic sense.
Got it. Thanks. Thanks, MK. So, if I just delve into the last, probably the theme for the discussion, where we talked about, see, a lot of this is very interesting and it's evolving very rapidly. But at the back, we'll also see a lot of collaborations, the models which were predominantly traditional models being disrupted with a need for a lot more collaborative ecosystem between OEMs, tier one suppliers, and startups. So we will see newer defined models that come in. So Vinay, in fact, here will be interesting to take your views in terms of how do you see AI being deployed into the OEM ecosystem? And is it more faster that to go towards the fleet and deploy it at the fleet level, or you see actually a lot of traction that's now happening even at the OEM ecosystem?
That's a good question, Ankur. So to be honest, in fact, the adoption with what we call aftermarket, which is fleets after they have already purchased vehicles, it is naturally faster and higher than OEMs, simply because the bar for putting this any new technology in the OEM and the kind of customer base that they have to serve, it's like it's quite broad, right? So they generally like to wait a little bit longer to make sure that the technology would actually is mature enough to be shipped along with the product. Fleet adoption is definitely much higher, but OEMs are, and I mean, depending upon what kind of a use case we are talking about, of course, right? Certain use cases are less riskier, more high value, like Amit mentioned in the case of Yulu. But there are certain use cases where so there's something called, as let's say, false positive and true positive, right? So if you put a technology for ADAS system in your vehicle, and some of us probably drive some of those vehicles which are enabled with camera and some sensors, and how often do you detect a true situation, and how often does it beep when there is a false alarm, right? So in fact, sometimes you would see vehicles which are enabled with technology, suddenly they start beeping for no reason, and you get, in fact, as a driver, you get, in fact, confused as to why suddenly, what's the risk around me, who am I going to about to hit? For those reasons, the adoption in OEMs is a little slower than fleets. In fact, to give you an example, today at in Netradyne, we have processed more than 30 billion miles of vision data. Every month we are processing 1 billion miles of data. 1 billion, 100 crore miles. Okay, that is possible, however, of course, because different fleets have different risk appetite depending upon what the value they see and maturity they are comfortable with of the technology. They are willing to adopt and see the benefit. We also, till date, for example, we have created, we have highlighted more than 400 crore risky driving events, 4 billion events, which otherwise could have would have run into a risky situation. But OEM adoption is now, we are seeing that coming up very quickly. There are many OEMs who are interested in the technology. Clearly, as I said, the criteria for them is much broader compared to what an individual fleet would decide. But the technology has matured. OEMs are very much interested in adopting the technology now. But I'm talking about past. Past has been fleet hire. Now we believe that OEMs are coming along as well.
Thanks, Vinay. Amit, maybe just 30 seconds, if you can just tell us what's just two things, what's really made the Yulu Bajaj model so successful? Maybe like just two factors.
It's working. I think the battery is low. I know this is a unique situation. Whether it is expandable to others or not, please apply your own judgment. We're talking about a very special use case, and more importantly, a very special individual, a company, Bajaj Auto Limited. So I'll tell you what has happened with us, and then take away in your context or others' context whether it will work or not. I'm a big believer that now electric mobility gives you an opportunity to rethink of the vehicles. For a very, very long time, we have been seeing the same motorcycles, same scooters, same car and buses. Yeah, it has become a little bit more fancier, maybe a little bit more comfortable, but there's no fundamental rethinking of the form factor. If I talk about a very interesting innovation which actually made EV penetration pretty high, it's actually a very humble e-rickshaw. I don't know how many of you have used it. If you go to north side of the country, you will see e-rickshaw. Very practically done product. You may have issue with sometimes they're doing some nuisance, but they actually have solved a very crucial mobility problem for a common person at a very affordable ticket price. The asset price is also low, for a consumer it is low, and it just does the job the way it should be. It was not a car, it was not an auto rickshaw. It created from grounds up by some entrepreneur based out of North India. When we were starting Yulu, we also had the same vision that yes, we do need a two wheels, but how it should look, what all it should do. So we know the pain point, but we did not know what it will be. So imagine, and I myself went to meet companies in Japan, in China, a bunch of Indian founders, etc. But everyone is like, okay, give me your requirements. I'll make it for you. You ought to commit these many volumes. And we are like, fine, this is good, but today we do not know what do we need. So more than an R&D and manufacturing partner, back in 2018 when we were looking at electric mobility, we actually needed a vision partner. So while I met with all big groups in the country and outside of India, there was one person who understood that what we're trying to build here. Someone who had conviction and also technical competence to say that, okay, I understand the pain point, we will make it together. I'm referring to Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, who is MD of Bajaj Auto. So in our case, we said this is a problem pain point we are looking to solve, and this is what we know today, and we will learn it as we move along. So he committed not only, he actually infused equity capital in the company, but more than that, he actually put his own R&D team. While he was doing Chetak, which is electric scooter, doing well, but he gave us the most valuable part of his company, which was R&D team. So we created this vehicle which you see on the road very often, and this was possible because we took first principle approach design thinking. For the first time, there was a vehicle two-wheeler made for commercial use case. For the first time, it was made to be given to the strangers. This type of vehicle does not exist in the world. There's no vehicle in the world, forget just India. So it was a very unique problem we had to solve. And I'm very proud of our association and hard work and all of the technology thing I was talking about. We have done a lot of improvements in the vehicle as we go along. That's our moat. Our vehicles get smarted every quarter because of the learning what we have been doing. And because of that, Bajaj also keep on learning from our usage pattern, which is all digitized, and they have been able to make their own core product better. So it's a win-win situation for both of us. So now, can someone else use this? But with this kind of association was only in the world. There's no mobility company in the world who has done that. So we are pretty unique in our sense. So if you are thinking of doing something similar, it is important that commitment is from the top. The commitment is actually a long term. It is not a specification and you tell me what I need to do and finger pointing and things like that. That will not work for sure. But we have been very blessed with respect to our association with Bajaj.
Sure. Thanks, Amit. That is actually very interesting. So while I would have loved to go on and hear for more thoughts from all three of you, but I'm also conscious of time. So call it a wrap here, but I hope you found this very engaging. I personally did love listening to all your thoughts on this. And thank you once again for candidly sharing so many wonderful responses. Thank you so much.